happy to see you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to our discussion.
You have worked with talent across so many markets. What are the biggest changes you have seen in how companies in this space attract and retain talent today?
I think that's a really good question. One of the key things I have seen change is the power shift between candidates and employers. 5 years ago, everything was kind of in the candidate or the employee's favor. So the candidate would be looking for 100K and they want to be fully remote. The client would say, yeah, no problem. Now the market is much more competitive. And I always say to candidates looking for new jobs, you have to be prepared that the client will negotiate your salary. The salary that you want is not necessarily the salary that you're going to get. So I think that's probably one of the key things. Also, remote working has become such a contentious issue. Some people want to be only fully remote. Some businesses don't want their employees to be at all remote. And so it's all about finding that balance. I don't think that candidates can necessarily expect to work fully remote anymore. I think times have changed. I think probably the perfect balance at the moment seems to be the hybrid approach. Maybe you're in the office on a Monday and a Friday and you work from home Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or you have core days. I think fully remote, although of course it works, my business will always be fully remote. It does come with its own challenges.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you because I think to keep balance is now really important because we have online work, we have office work, and when you can mix it, it can make really a good result.
Yeah, and I think as well, I actually just spoke on a panel about this. I think remote doesn't work for everyone. I think if you're straight out of school, straight out of uni, and you're looking for a job, I think the thought of being at home all the time is actually quite frightening. You don't have any work colleagues, you don't have any work friends, you don't understand how business or the business that you work in works. And I think if I go back to my first days working in recruitment, all of my best sales pitches came from listening to people in a 100-person office. If you're sat at home on your own, to have to pick up that call and that phone to do your first sales call, I think would be terrifying. I think having that sense of community with the employees and the workforce around you is something that a lot of people really don't have exposure to if they're working from home. And if I think back to some of my best friends I ever made, they were from, businesses that I worked in, when I first started. And that sense of camaraderie and team spirit, of course you can replicate it online, but it's not quite the same as being, sat like we are today together, seeing each other, working together.
If to speak about company and development of company, what are the key ingredients to develop your company, to grow your company, but that it doesn't lose its identity?
Again, really great question. I think depending on the life cycle of a business, you have to be, honest about where you are as a company. A company that's 5 years into its growth phase is probably able to afford better talent, better benefits, and better structures. But I think for a business to be successful, it's important that transparency and trust are at kind of the key foundations. So I would say that those are probably the two most important things.
Now we're living in the world where AI and technologies are developing so fast. So how companies now use these possibilities to train, develop, and support their teams? If it has changed, if they compare with few years ago, so how is the situation now?
So I think AI has had a massive impact on streamlining admin for teams. So if I look at HR teams, what would maybe take 2 or 3 hours of creating a job description, you can now create it in literally a matter of seconds. That's amazing. But I think over-reliance on AI can lead to people becoming lazy. And I think that unfortunately, if workforces, teams, individuals rely too heavily on AI, then you will see challenges in businesses. I think it's great to use as like a foundation for something, but AI is also only as intelligent as the question that you're inputting and the person that's inputting the information. And often I see things that AI has created for my team on particular topics. It's not really correct. It may be correct in the greater landscape, but for my business, it's not correct. And I think that it's really important that people use their own brains and their own common sense to also help translate AI into what is particular about that business. So I think for job descriptions. I say to candidates for like CV formatting, it's really great, but don't use it to create your entire CV, because your CV is then going to look the same as 100 other people. And the whole thing is that your CV should be personalized to you.
What do you think about opportunities and shifts for HR and recruitment in the industry over the next year?
So I think what we will see is, within AI, within emerging tech, these businesses are growing very, very fast. But of course, there's a risk. If you go from a very stable, established business and you join a startup, there's a risk that that business might not be there in the next couple of years. But you have to look and see whether it's worth taking that calculated risk. For some people moving into startups, you look at, they become CEOs in 3-4 years, incredible growth journey. But for every one of those, there are many startups that fail. So I think it's important for people to look at their own personal situation. Are they ready and are they able to take that risk?
Yeah, thank you very much. I was happy to see you here and see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me.